Illuvium Arena has a major problem right now. Even though the game's been in the best state it's been in outside of a couple of balance issues, it's been great. So why aren't new players playing the game and sticking with it? It's an issue that I've been noticing for the last little while, and it makes it hard for me, especially when someone's asking me how to get started with Illuvium. I have a hard time actually answering that question, and it's kind of painful. But what exactly am I talking about here? Let me discuss with you the problems that I see currently for new players coming into the Illuvium Arena, and then at the very end, how I would fix them. Better understand the issues that I currently have with the Illuvium Arena, especially trying to onboard new players onto it. I do need to go over the main gameplay loop of how Arena's even meant to be played in the first place. Because first and foremost, you used to be able, completely free to play, be able to go catch your own Illuvials in the Illuvium overworld. You would be getting the tier zeros, so obviously they're not going to be the most powerful come the late game of the arena, but you could at least hold your own with them for a little bit. And it would give you that first experience of capturing an alluvial, training it, raising it, and seeing its impact and seeing its growth on the arena battlefield itself without actually having to spend a dime. Then, of course, you'd be able to level them up throughout the arena or go into overworld and level them up as well if you wanted to. You would compete on the ranked leaderboards in the arena, have your shot at some rewards potentially, and then, of course, having the opportunity to just compete in tournaments and events throughout the year. But here in that loop now lies our current problem because, of course, first and foremost, the Illuvium Overworld's gone. It's been taken down to prepare for the Illuvium MMO. So in terms of being able to go out there and catch alluvials for yourself, you can't anymore. So this creature capture game currently doesn't let you catch creatures. Of course, there are still ways that you can get alluvials, but it completely desensitizes the entire process and you don't get any form of attachment to those alluvials through these two ways. Of course, first off, there is just being able to go into the Illuvidex or the marketplace and purchase the individual alluvials that you want through Web3 transactions. With it being through Web3 transactions in the first place, that enough is probably enough to turn away 99% of average gamers that aren't interested in crypto gaming. But two, that also expects that the player coming in already knows what they want to be playing and what all the alluvials do, and then picking out singles, which I don't think is reasonable to think about. The other way, of course, is to then go the gacha route, where you'd, of course, get the auto drone runs, which is the equivalent of opening a pack of cards and seeing what it happens to give you. So both of the ways that you'd end up being able to collect creatures either has a very abrasive transaction style due to the Web3 style transaction, or you have to go gacha and you can't actually predict what you're going to get. To me, at least personally, as an average gamer, neither of those are fun. Now, don't get me wrong, those are great options to have on top of being able to catch your own creatures to help maybe speed up the process a little bit or help those who don't necessarily have the time to put into game to be able to catch alluvials. But with there being no way to capture alluvials right now, there's a big hole in the gameplay loop. Now, all these problems do hurt, but we do at least have the free level 1 alluvials that even if they have 0 stats, and even if you'll be at a somewhat of a competitive disadvantage, you could level those up, right? No, not in the slightest. Those free alluvials that you do get at the very, very beginning cannot be leveled up at all. And you're going to always, whether you play 2 matches a day or whether you play 20, you will be stuck at level 1. You will never feel any sort of progression as a player unless you pay up. And even if you were a whale and you hopped into a brand new game, didn't know anything about it, but screw it, you bought one of every single alluvial anyway, just because you could, there is still a problem that is going to stop you from getting progression. And that's the fact that as it stands right now, you don't get any experience if you lose a round. You only get experience when you win a round. So even if I bought alluvials as I'm learning the game, there is a good chance that even my low-level alluvials would not see any levels at all because I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to have any sort of positive reinforcement coming to me as a new player at all. Even if you have the experience boost, of course, it doesn't matter because you still don't gain experience at all if you lose. And then I'm talking about stats and levels and all that jazz. There's a good chance that after playing the tutorial or playing the first couple of games, that players don't even know that levels and stats actually exist as a mechanic in the game. I've never seen a pop-up or anything telling me about the Illuvials and their levels, their stats, watch them get stronger. So what it oftentimes can feel like as a new player coming in, they play the game, they're getting absolutely stomped. They don't know why they're getting stomped because in theory, they've been able to make synergies and make teams, but they're still getting stomped. No matter what they do, they're getting stomped. They maybe look up and then they realize, wait, there's levels and stats here? Then that being hidden, then showing up at what could potentially be seen as a pay-to-win mechanic, all of a sudden is going to tick most players off and likely uninstall the game. Now, I'm talking a lot about stats, and I'm talking a lot about leveling and all. Like, stats and leveling, like, yes, that's an improvement, but that's not the end of the world, right? Well, it's huge. It's a big portion of what the Illuvium competitive system and ranked system currently is. A while ago, ranked didn't have any sort of ownership benefits at all. Every single player would have every single alluvial, they'd all be on the same level, and they'd have all of the same statistics. So a newcomer could come in and play with the same level of team as a professional. However, that game mode does make it really weird for all these players that did go out and catch their alluvials and did train them up and have these really strong alluvials, and they wanted to get more out of it. And after the Illuvium Pro League didn't bring in as many new players as they were hoping for, they changed ranked into an ownership-only model where those stats, where those levels mean all the difference. I'd argue that a newcomer never will beat an experienced player with a collection, even if they were one-handed gaming, so to speak. In a perfect world, of course, players would just be matchmates, so the newcomers would play up against the newcomers. But the problem is that Illuvium Arena is so small that any sort of form of matchmaking would make the queue times last forever. Even as it stands right now, there's times where I'm waiting 15, 20 minutes for a game, only to be put up with people that aren't necessarily in my skill level. So I can only imagine how it is for a newcomer to come in and all of a sudden be playing a top 5 player on the ranked ladder for their first game. And then they're going to take a massive crushing loss, have absolutely nothing they can do, and even if they have their own alluvials, again, you don't gain experience when you lose a round, so you don't get any progression. So it definitely feels like a bit of a kingmaker system, but nobody cares who the king is of an empty kingdom. And then even through all of these hurdles, even if a player wants to have something to look forward to, something to watch, maybe learn off of better players, maybe wants to watch some tournaments, there hasn't been a tournament at all since the Illuvium Pro League concluded, and the only tournament that's been announced so far is only due to an Illuvium Beyond sponsorship, not anything to do with natural competitiveness. So to recap, a new player coming in has no events or tournaments to look forward to either compete in or watch. They cannot catch their own alluvials in a creature capturing game, and the only way they can get alluvials is by paying something, with one of them being a Web3 style of transaction, which, like I said before, could be a turnoff right off the bat. They likely don't know that stats and leveling are a thing, and when they do find out, it's usually by accident or by surprise, or they then think that the game is hiding pay-to-win mechanics on you. Even if you buy your own alluvials, you don't gain experience when you lose. And when you queue up for games, there's no matchmaking, so you're likely going to go up against somebody who's got a much bigger and better collection than you, and no matter what you do, you will lose, which in turn means you don't get any progression either. And that's just listing 7. I've not touched anything about gameplay or balance or anything along those lines. To me, this goes one of two ways. Either you're that 0.5% of people that happen to understand that this game is overwhelmingly favored to spenders, similar to like players who might play something like a Rise of Kingdoms. They understand that, okay, in order to make any impact in this game at all, I just have to tap my credit card over and over again. And some people are okay with that. They'll spend, they have the extra income, they want to give it a shot, and they're willing to do that before they even actually understand the game. You're a unicorn, but you're definitely not the majority. What I'd argue for most people, though, is that players see how badly the deck is stacked against them, even right off the bat before they even know anything about the creatures, and they realize that there's no way that they could enjoy the game right now without spending. And so what they do, they'll uninstall the game, call it a scam, which, let's be honest, got that Web3 stigma attached to it, so people will believe you immediately. And then when they see my videos online, they call me a snake oil salesman, which is getting exhausting. And the worst part about it, I can't dispute them about it because I understand their frustration. Now, I get that Illuvium isn't a massive studio with an endless budget. In fact, they've gone on record saying that development for the arena is pretty much done. But before they call this a complete game, I hope that they can fix this newcomer experience as Arena as a standalone game. I do understand that, say, the creature capture aspect from when the MMO comes out can fix at least that creature capturing problem, but I'd argue that you can keep it all within the Illuvium Arena system without having to play another game and still make this a fantastic game. So what I'm about to suggest are changes that I think can be made to Illuvium Arena with very little or no development time at all, just to make the onboarding experience better for everyone, and I'd argue it would help experienced players too. First things first, TPI, stats, leveling, these all need to be talked about immediately in the tutorial. We do need a pop-up, just like you'd see the pop-up for this is how you bond your ranger to an alluvial. We need a pop-up to show that stats and levels are a thing. Be transparent about it, get it out on the table. That way, nobody is surprised about it. Helps the player build trust with the developers. 2, let's make it so that you can actually level up and gain experience when you lose. I believe the system already calculates experience based off of the amount of alluvials eliminated in the round. So why can't we just flick the switch to allow the loser to also gain experience of the alluvials they already took out? Just because somebody's playing Illuvium Arena doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be interested in playing the MMO Zero or other Illuvium titles, so let's get the creature ownership aspect in the arena without needing to touch these other titles. My idea for this is a choose your starter kind of mechanic, where maybe you have, say, pre-arranged starter decks of sorts that are tailored to maybe one of 3 affinities. So an example could be a Chakondi themed fire deck or something along those lines, or a tanky water kind of style deck, or a healing based nature deck, so to speak. Give a couple of the early alluvials, give a couple tier 0s, couple tier 1s, maybe a Lynx if you're feeling generous, and then maybe one tier 3. You can easily make some starter decks out of the amount of alluvials that we do have. Allow players to have these alluvials, allow them to level. They'll be account bound and soul bound, so you cannot trade and sell them to prevent bots from doing anything stupid. I would then offer the other starter decks as a very inexpensive paid option, so a player can kind of get used to the game, but if they want to amass and get the feel of having that big collection and leveling up a bunch of alluvials at once and being able to play more than just that one starter deck, they can at a relatively cheap price, but keep it in fuel so we don't have to do anything Web3. Because yes, these players, even if they ended up getting all of the starter decks, they're going to be at a disadvantage because they don't have stats still. But at least they're leveling, they're feeling the progression, and they can actually feel some sort of strength increase, especially if they're playing up against newer players. So how do we introduce them to stats then? Upgrade packs. The next thing that I would suggest is, say, have a upgrade pack that's tailored towards those starter decks again. So maybe you can have firepower up level 1, where it's all of the same alluvials, but they are TPIs from 30 to 50. And level 1 would be the cheapest option. But say you could then go up to level 2, fire starter deck, but your alluvials are now 50 to 70. Firepower up level 3, all the way up from 70 to 90, make that the most premium option. Illuvium doesn't even necessarily have to set the price for this, because how I would do this is those packs are basically just mass Web3 purchases from alluvials that are already listed on the Alluvidex. So the more experienced players that already have their collections and they're putting alluvials up for sale, they get a piece of that. And how do they get their cut? How do they get their sale? Just through the rewards menu like we've done with other things. That way, you can keep the price in fuel in theory so that you don't have to do any sort of Web3 crypto transaction, but those that do want to receive their payment in crypto could receive it as an Ethereum reward. And I'd intentionally leave out tier 4s and tier 5s because those tend to be the more pricey alluvials, but then there's nothing against having maybe an ultimate upgrade pack that does have tier 4s and tier 5s included, And then, yeah, those are going to be selling for more of a premium, but the players, it's upfront. They're going to know that that's a premium pack because they're going to be getting the best of the best. And if they're going to get the best of the best, they damn well better pay for it. And because these were alluvials that were caught by other players, I would then say all of those alluvials bought in those packs could then be sold by these players if they want to sometime down the road, if they want to try and learn and understand the Illuvidex and the Web3 market of sorts. But that's their choice. It's not forced on them. And a big selling point to these packs as well could be a little bit of cross-advertising where, hey, get these alluvials now, level them up, play with them now, bring them to the MMO later. And lastly, in regards to the packs, well, what happens if there's a shortage on certain alluvials? Then certain packs just don't become available. I never ever want to see the day where Illuvium makes alluvials to try and fill a shortage. That was on us players to capture. If we didn't capture them, guess what? They're extinct. Too damn bad. And the last thing that I would change is we do need some sort of tournament or event system back into the game. It's already been a couple of months. It's been since December since we've gotten any word of anything. And like I said before, the only announced tournament as of this moment is only happening because it's a part of an Illuvium Beyond sponsorship. And it's not truly just there for the sake of competition. If it were up to me, I would figure out when the most amount of my players are online on the game, and I would make a weekly rumble. Basically, small automated events that start at certain times, maybe 1 or 2 lobbies that then finish off into a grand finals of sorts, where competitions can be had, but ownership stats are turned off. This way, new players can come on in, those free-to-play players can come on into the game and try to have themselves a decent competition on an even playing field, see if they happen to like it, and heck, if they do well to the point where they make it into, say, the top 3 or something, who says that we can't just give them a little tier 1, little 50 TPI tier 1 or something like that, and give them that taste of ownership and training now that they have an alluvial that they can level up themselves. Maybe it'll get them to look into some of the packs. Maybe it'll get them to look into buying individual alluvials if they know what kind of play style they like to play. Or they don't buy anything at all, but they keep coming back for the weekly rumble because they know that is their chance to have a fair fight. It could at least keep them interested, keep them involved. And if more tournaments start coming out for the competitive scene as well, with like the standard Leviathan style or the ownership style, doesn't necessarily have to be the Illuvium Pro League Season 2, but just some sort of tournament coming back again for the sake of competition and not just due to a sponsor. Give those newer players and experienced players, of course, something to watch, something to learn from, something to look forward to playing in sometime in the future. Give them the drive to train. Give them the drive to compete. Give them something to play for. But of course, at the end of the day, I'm just on the outside looking in. I'm not a developer. I'm not a staff member. And I only speak out so harshly against the current state of the newcomer experience with Illuvium, not because I'm angry, not because I'm personally against anybody or what anybody wants the game to eventually become. I'm just a guy who wants to see this game succeed. So some people might be thinking that I'm being a bit harsh, but I mean it from a place of care. But I want to take this discussion to everybody in the comments as well. Do you have any ideas as to how the new player experience could be improved in Illuvium? If so, what is it and what would you like to see? If you enjoyed this video, I do ask that you subscribe to the channel. I've been covering Illuvium since August and been a long-time player. I've been in the top 50 in the Arena Gauntlet ranked leaderboards for about the last 3 or 4 seasons now, and I am still having a great time. And if you did enjoy this to the point where you want to help fuel my Illuvium adventures as well, I do have a referral code in the Illuvidex. Use code SILEN, and I'll get a small kickback from specific purchases in the Illuvidex. But here's to some better things to come, I'm sure. Good luck out there, Ranger.